Hi, this is Vicky Schettini, doing WIT, W-I-T, whatever it takes. Stay tuned for the podcast, Real Estate Investments, where I teach you little tricks of the trade to save you time and money. That's always good. And I have some amazing speakers. So stay tuned, tune in, and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube, The Real Vicky Schettini, and the other social medias. Thanks. Hello, everyone. This is Vicky Schettini, and you are listening to Vicky Schettini doing WIT, whatever it takes. Today, this podcast is about real estate investment. And guess what? I am talking to the amazing CEO of Edified Equity, Dino Pierce. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Dino.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It is a pleasure and an honor. I'm looking forward to sharing some insights and discussing investing today.
I'm excited. So I had a talk with Dino the other day, and the stuff that he's doing will blow your mind. So I'm like, for sure, we need to have you here. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got started in real estate.
Yeah, sure. So I got started in real estate actually about 5 years ago, and I started. It's kind of like the scenic route to ultimately where I am now, and the only thing I focus on, which is multifamily, apartment communities, workforce housing. But I actually didn't start there. I wish I would have, but I didn't. Like I said, I took the scenic route, and I started in the single family world, where I was marketing direct to seller for people who were going through some type of change in their life, or they needed to sell quick because of a relocation. Maybe they didn't want to put or have the money to put into the house to put it on the traditional market. So I would make them an offer and get the house under contract. Now, I don't have the skill of single family flipping. I've never been trained. I'm not a contractor. I just don't. I'm not a handyman. I like building things, but I don't just have that quality of skill. It's not what I've done. So what I would do is instead of just selling the contract for a flip, a quick small profit, what I would do is partner with a residential redeveloper. We would do kind of like a joint venture. I have the contract. I know for $50,000 of rehab in 6 months, we can put this on the market and make X profit. And I want a joint venture. You're going to do all the work, but I have like the golden egg here, which is the property. And then what I would also do is lend a small amount of my own money without any upfront points. So that also helped them, because a lot of these residential redevelopers, they're using private money, hard money, and they're paying 2 points up front, which is basically, 2% of the money you're borrowing up front. And I didn't do that. I just did straight simple interest, and we settled everything up on the back end. And what was happening was I was having a lot of success with that I'm based out of Denver, Colorado. I was having a lot of success with that. But I had a friend, still my friend today, who was the COO of a large apartment acquisitions company. And he kept saying, look, you are a business person. I know your background. I know you. I know how you were raised by entrepreneurs. Like, you understand business. You understand people. What you're doing is great. You're making money, but you have to be getting killed on taxes. And with our market being so tight, it's getting harder and harder for you to find new opportunities as far as flips. And he was right. And it took him about 1.5 years, 2 years of steady dripping and, planting that seed. And one day I woke up and said, I want to learn how to syndicate apartment communities. So that's how I got my start. Was actually a friend, just constantly, just a small, steady drip. And he had no vested interest in it. He wasn't going to make any money if I started. He was sincerely just saying, look, you're my friend. You're making a killing, but you're getting killed on taxes. I know there's a better way because this is what I do. You should do it too. And that's how I got started. So after him planting those seeds, what I did was I aligned myself with someone who had a mentoring program that fit my schedule because I'm super busy, hands-on dad. I run a medical device business, now syndicating apartment communities. So I had to have an online system that I can plug into while everyone else was asleep. And I did that. I learned the business inside and out, started taking massive action, on day one. That's my personality. And this is, I know the Whatever It Takes podcast, like that is me. It'll probably be on my tombstone. Dino Pierce, did whatever it took.
Wait.
Right. So yes. And so anyway, I learned it. I started networking with brokers. I started talking to potential passive limited partners, investors, people that would come in and co-own these opportunities, align myself with great partners who knew how to acquire the buildings, people who had the track record. I mean, just put together a really good team and dove right in head first. That's how I got my start.
And I always stress the fact about your networking and your inner circle. Mm-hmm. You just said it right there. Your friend that got you started, he didn't have anything to gain, but because you are in the right inner circle, you have the right people around you. Yeah. Huge difference in your business. Mm-hmm. And I also started in single family residence, and I know I probably about 2.5 years ago, I started in multifamily. What do you think is people's fears for not getting into multifamily? I mean, I knew what mine was, but what do you think your fear was? Curious.
Yeah, I think honestly, even before the fear, honestly, I think it's such an under the radar alternative investment that most people they're not even aware that it's a possibility. I wasn't. I had no idea, maybe even 6 years ago, 5 years ago, I had no idea that I could own a piece of an apartment community. I knew I can invest into the stock market. I can buy a single family rental. Like all those things are commonly known, but I didn't know. So once you know though, I think what a limiting factor, a fear that people have to overcome is, number one, it almost sounds too good to be true. And when something sounds too good to be true, a lot of times it is. So right there, they have to overcome that. And I think building the trust, having a credible team and building the relationship and taking the long, slow kind of marathon approach to this industry is the best way to do it. But I think, if I met you today, and I didn't know that it was an option, and you said, no, I syndicate apartment communities. If you have $150,000 to $100,000 or more, you can invest passively. And actually, I'm not borrowing this money from you, Dino. You're owning the building with me and my team. I would be like, wow, well, you seem like a nice person. You obviously know what you're talking about, but I don't know. I don't know you, and I'm going to wire $100,000. So I think it's time, trust, and really I educate passive investors. Whether or not they ever invest with me, that's on them. It's not my decision. But what I'm getting at is I make a conscious effort to start taking people down that path because I know it's a marathon and they're not going to sprint to it. It's very rare that would ever happen.
It's true. It's so true. And that's what I like about your program. You're a lot different than most people, let's face it. Mm. The part that you include them in joint venture with them, huge. That's a huge thing. And I'm dying to ask about the program, but I have a couple more things to ask you because I know you got an amazing stuff that you're doing, and I'm itching to ask, but I'm going to stick to the script. So what is the best, well, we kind of gave the advice, but what is your greatest accomplishment that you say, I did that you achieved in business? Because we know you have kids and whatnot.
Right, of course. Yes, in business. Well, since we're talking real estate, I'll stick to real estate side. But I mean, a couple things. Like one thing was, I remember the first time, my first ever house that I got under contract, and it was a free lead that I got from elbow grease off of Craigslist. Didn't cost me a penny. And anyway, this gentleman had health issues. He had to leave Colorado, move back home to Alabama, and they basically like picked up and left and just left the house there. And so he was advertising on Craigslist, for sale by owner, but it needed a lot of work, like over $100,000 of rehab to really be able to put it on the market in that area. It was in an upscale kind of area in Aspen Park in Conifer, Colorado. And it was like the worst house on the block. Well, by the time it was all said and done, and we sent him after pictures of his house, like he was, even though he didn't own it anymore, he had already sold it, was very happy with his price because he knew it needed a ton of work. And those foundational, all kind of things wrong with it. But anyway, there was so much pride. The email he sent me saying like, that's my house. And that's how I envisioned it. Being able to do things like that for people. And then on the multifamily side, just recently, an investor who invested $60,000 in a syndication of ours sent me an email and he said, wow, I didn't realize. Now you have to, we only own this building for like, as far as 2018 goes, for about 4 months. But because of bonus depreciation and cost segregation, that $60,000 investment, his email literally read, I wasn't expecting the $24,000 loss because of accelerated depreciation on my taxes. So what he meant by that was, I'm getting cash flow from this investment, but on paper, I was able to take a $24,000 loss over a $60,000 investment, and we've only had the building for 4 months. Yeah, huge. You're right. And it was his, it was his first, he was a savvy real estate professional, but his first syndication.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Real estate is so huge and there's so many ways of making money in real estate.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, don't knock anything just because you don't know about it. Syndications is huge and, great. You have a lot of knowledge on this. So, next question here is, so for someone that is thinking about getting into multifamilies but is having second thoughts, or even syndications. Let's talk about that because I think that is like the biggest one. Everybody's heard about it, but not too many people know about it. What can we tell people? Can you tell people about syndications?
Yeah, so what I can tell people about syndication, if you're thinking about getting started as a limited partner, which means I have money, I'm an investor, or I've done a really good job at saving and I want to outperform my IRA. I want to get some tax benefits. I want to share in profit. But I want to have, it's kind of like it actually is what I was doing on the single family side. I didn't realize it back then, but when I was passive, except for getting the house under contract, but when I was lending the money, and they were doing all the work, that is the definition of a syndication, is when someone has invested money passively and someone else is going to do all the work with the expectation of a profit, that's considered a syndication. So on the multifamily side, the best way to get started is first learn what it is. So you can think of, I've heard an analogy one time, and I can't even remember who said it honestly, but it made sense to me. If a syndication is, so if you and I and 70 other people got on an airplane today and we took a trip to Hawaii, we just syndicated that flight. All of us collectively buying the ticket, paid for the fuel and the pilots and the flight attendants, everything. So the movies they're going to play, the internet access, and actually they're going to charge us more just to get on the internet. So anyway, but that's a syndication. So we're going to take a group of people. We're going to pool all of our money together. The active team is going to have the track record to qualify for a loan from Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. That loan is going to be millions of dollars. They are going to have the experience to run the business. And what you are going to do is learn about them enough to where you have faith and you trust to say, I like that. This is a very personal type of investment. I like having your cell phone. I like having access to you whenever I want. And I'm going to invest in that syndication. We're going to buy that 200 unit building located in, I'm just throwing a market out there, Huntsville, Alabama. It's real, it's physical. When I'm at the Christmas party talking to my brother or whoever, I can say, dude, do you know, like I have 200 unit apartment complex, my partners and I, in Huntsville, Alabama. What? You know, because again, most people don't even realize it's an option.
Exactly.
So I think getting the best way to get started, if that's the true question, is number one, learn what it is. Number two, find a team that you like, you're going to get to know, and you're going to trust. You know they're going to be able to perform. They have a solid track record, and they could be emerging. It could be their second, third, fourth deal. But you're like, okay, but I understand. You guys know where you're going. And then, make the investment. One of the things, though, that is different about this, other than the stock market. So if I want to go buy stock in Nike today, I can. I don't have to ask anyone. I just have to have whatever a share of Nike costs. And I wire it in, and now I own one share. The difference is in syndication, unless you use what we have, it's called an exemptions. Unless you use a 506C exemption, which means I can publicly advertise. You don't have to know me. You have to be an accredited investor, though, to be able to participate. These are private offerings, and that's what we do. We prefer to use what's called a 506B offering, which means I cannot publicly advertise. I cannot come on Vicky's podcast today and say, hey, this is a great opportunity, you should invest. I cannot do that. I have to legitimately know you and have a substantive background and understanding of your ability to make an investment. And we have turned people away and said, I know you have the money, but you need a little more education before you can participate. We're going to go ahead and let you sit this one out, continue to get to know each other, and we're going to educate you on what this is so that when you do make an investment, everything's done the right way.
Correct. And for the novice, can you talk about accredited versus non-accredited investor?
Yes, certainly. So the accredited investor, there are certain hurdles that they have to hit. And you can look this up. It's widely available online if you want to get it, in writing. But basically, if you're single, you have to make above, I think it's 200 or 250,000, or have a net worth of over $1 million, and that does not include your single family residence. So those are two ways. If you're married, it has to be above 300,000, same net worth hurdle, which is $1 million. And the other addition is you have to have hit that hurdle for the previous 2 years and have every expectation to be able to do it again this year and years coming. That's an accredited investor. A sophisticated investor says, well, I don't. Like, I make $100,000, not 200. I'm single, so I don't qualify there. And wow, my single family, actually, I don't have a single family because I'm smart. I rent. And and anyway, so wow, I don't qualify there either, but I've been through these 2 apartment syndication programs. I plugged into all these podcasts. My brother has participated in syndications, and he's told me all about it. So basically, when that person fills out the SEC qualification questionnaire that we have or any other group should be using, we would look at the answers and say, true, they're not accredited. However, they are sophisticated. Now, we have a substantive background on their ability to make this investment. Let's get to know more about them and more about their goals, and get on a phone call, or if they're local, let's meet them for lunch or something like that.
That is beautiful. Beautiful. So now you know those people who are looking into investment, and you're in Colorado, you said, right?
I am. I'm based, right out of the Denver metro area.
Now, also, one thing is, and all syndications are different, but you don't have to be in his same state either. You can be in other states and be able to invest. So that's another note there.
Yeah.
So now let's get to what programs do you have available, and how can we invite people? But I'm really excited about your program.
Yeah. So I don't have. It's kind of how I end all of my podcast. My podcast, not as a guest, but my podcast saying, I don't have anything to sell, but I am on a mission, and I will continue to deliver quality consultative education on a routine basis. So again, I don't have anything to sell, but if you want to learn more about the syndication world, some of the benefits, some of the roadblocks, the red flags, I cover all of it. And you can plug in a few ways. I have a podcast. It's on iTunes and Stitcher, possibly even more channels. And I also have a YouTube channel you can plug in there. Again, I don't have it. There's nothing for you to buy. I'm not going to sell you. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I've bought courses and have benefited greatly from them. I'm just saying my approach is a little bit different, where I position myself as someone who's done it, someone who wants to help, and I'm a thought leader. So what I'm doing, one of the ways that I give back is I pump out massive amounts of content across several channels. It's not hard to find me. You can Google me on the iTunes, look at YouTube. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all of them. And again, it's just sometimes it's positive quotes that people inspiring, but for the most part, I'm talking about the benefits of being, and again, the roadblocks and red flags as well, of being a limited partner in a syndication. And again, whether or not you ever want, maybe Vicky's going to syndicate, and you're like, wow, I like you, Dino, but I've been knowing her for 10 years and we went to high school together and all this. That's fine. You can still come learn here. And that way, when you fill out Vicky's SEC qualification questionnaire, and you by answering those questions, she's going to look at it and say, wow, you know what you're doing. You do qualify, and we know each other. So that's basically, if you want to call it, my program.
Huge. Right. It's free. And
Free.
That's the best part of it all. Power to me, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And you're giving it away for free. So listen to those podcasts, get as much information as you can, and get a hold of him. Like you said, he's on Facebook, the social media. So that is huge. Well, that just about wraps it up for today. And if you want to hear any more exciting stories, just like Dino, that is huge what he's got going. You can also subscribe and listen to our podcast. And that'll be it for the day.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you again.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This episode was brought to you by WIT Property Finders, Podio, REI Black Book, and also subscribe to my podcast at iTunes, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, and last but not least, Spreaker. Have an amazing day. Bye.